Today, we take a look at two malls in Appleton, Wisconsin. Let's start out with the Northland Mall, a micro mall with a surprising amount of old world charm, even if it is rather empty nowadays. Northland Mall originally began as the Northland Plaza in 1969, hosting the original anchors W.T. Grant and Kroger. As one of the first shopping developments of Appleton, it was surprisingly developed by Melvin Simon and Associates. That's a weird name. Didn't they come up in Indianapolis? However, the mall didn't start out very successful, losing multiple tenants within the first 2 years or so alone. Kroger, Super RX Drugs, Hallmark, King's Food Host, and a local dry cleaner all fled the mall within that time. Shopko expressed interest in the location, however, and would open up its second store in the region at the plaza in 1971, and while W.T. Grant would leave in 1976, the mall ended up pulling in new tenants and even replaced W.T. Grant with Lathrop Furniture in 1979. Pardon if I'm mispronouncing that. In 1983, Kohl's would come to replace Lathrop Furniture, and this would lead to the creation of the enclosed corridor we see today. And really, that's kinda where everything stops. Shopko would close its doors in 2019 as the company was liquidating at that time, but really, there isn't much else of note. It's like time decided to stop and stand still right here. Micromalls like these are always a curious case, as they tend to get overlooked or flat out ignored in favor of giant malls like the nearby City Center Plaza. But these smaller places tend to have a charm all of their own, as well as a story to tell. And it's a shame to see it almost empty like this, with only 2 or 3 tenants to speak of. Since micromalls are better suited due to their small footprint, they could serve as a haven for smaller vendors and offer refuge from the elements. I would like to go more into detail, but it's already time to go. But we still have the big one to cover, Fox River Mall. Now let's have a look at the mall that's still holding its own in the city, the Fox River Mall. It is a bit scuffed thanks to its dead anchors, and some rough history that I didn't know about until researching this mall, but life goes on for the most part. Let's go for a walk and discuss the mall's story. As malls were becoming more prolific for big cities, Appleton, Wisconsin was actually somewhat late to the party in securing its very own regional mall. Sure, you had the Northland Plaza, but that was just a micro mall, a community mall at best. Fox River was announced in the 70s, but was mired in legal troubles like the City Center Plaza downtown, and wouldn't be constructed until the early 80s, with the site being located on the far west side of the city. According to the Post-Crescent, Fox River Mall officially opened in July 1984 with a grand opening on the 18th. This attracted thousands of shoppers despite only Sears being ready to go as an original anchor, along with a reported 72 inline stores, of which included a movie theater and a Walgreens. The mall outperformed original expectations, and it was expected that the area around Fox River Mall would grow with new residential and commercial developments alike. The mall would receive several expansions over the years in the form of new anchors. JCPenney would arrive as the second anchor for the mall, opening in November 1985. And more expansion plans would call for a third department store, Prangie's. Target would also jump on board in 1986 as a new arrival to the Fox Cities region, and enter 1991, and the mall would shift to a more upscale clientele with the openings of their fifth anchor, Dayton's, in July. A little something for everyone. Over time, two anchors would undergo some changes, with Prangie's getting taken over by Younkers, while Dayton's would get taken over by Marshall Field's, and in 2003, Scheels would arrive to the picture as a premier sporting goods store. Pardon if I'm mispronouncing that. And following this a year later would be a major renovation and expansion to revamp the mall's food court as well as the mall's overall look. This would cement the Fox River Mall as a draw for customers that hailed from Green Bay, Marinette, and even parts of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And in 2014, it was alleged that Fox River Mall was the largest mall in Wisconsin. Now, it is worth mentioning that Fox River Mall was also competing with Green Bay's retail market, as Easttown Mall and Port Plaza Mall were already established long before Fox River Mall. While the Easttown Mall clung to life all the way to 2021, and I just missed that mall too. Port Plaza lost out much earlier on and would become little more than a memory I've only seen pictures of in a 1986 newspaper. Today, only the Bay Park Square remains as Green Bay's primary mall, but that's a mall for another time. Maybe I should go back to Wisconsin someday, for your cheese pairs great with a pizza. Entering 2018, however, some cracks in the mall did begin to show, as Younkers would close in May 2018, as its parent company, Bon-Ton, was entering bankruptcy, with potential buyers either not found or declined by judges. Sears would follow not long after, closing its doors in March 2019. While this leaves two vacant anchors at Fox River Mall, those aren't the worst losses to have, as both companies were in decline, with Sears still managing to find new ways to decline today as it leaves its own bankruptcy. However, we're entering May 2023, and as of the voicing of this video, I have found no update on those anchors being filled in or demolished for some other development. I'm about to talk about a couple controversial events at this mall, so consider this your only trigger warning. Fox River Mall would experience a sudden event in January 2021 when a man had drawn a firearm and fatally wounded a 19-year-old over a relationship dispute. Pardon the intentionally vague language, but I'm trying to avoid stirring the pot this time around because YouTube is, well, frankly crappy for talking about hotter subjects like this. And I never even knew the story until searching for articles on the mall's current status. The suspect was apprehended and later on sentenced to 35 years in prison plus another 20 years under supervision. Now, my only real thing I have to say on this matter is that you don't shoot someone over a relationship dispute. That is a needless waste of human life. And there was another firearm-related event that occurred in the mall parking lot come 2022, although this was more of a case of an accidental self-inflicted wound. I'm not going to say whether you should or shouldn't be carrying, but presuming this was a negligent discharge, perhaps you should review safe firearms handling if you are going to carry. You know, finger off the trigger, safety switch, don't point at anything you aren't willing to destroy, etc., etc. You are using a dangerous tool after all, not a fidget device. That should go without saying, but sometimes we have to say it anyway. During my visit, it appeared that Fox River Mall was doing just fine despite the hits to its anchors, as well as its reputation. I also felt relatively comfortable and safe walking the halls and having pretzel bites, for what it's worth. Now, while the mall is doing alright, it still has those two empty anchors to deal with, and the Fox River Mall still has competition in the form of new strip malls and the Bay Park Square in Green Bay. And if online shopping is as lethal as normies say it is, well, there's only one way to tell if this mall can stand the test of time from here on out. Regarding my personal thoughts on this mall, while I can't say it's my favorite mall, it's certainly a decent one. It isn't oppressively bland, and it isn't so bright inside that it's harsh and inducing a headache, which I've had an issue with other malls over that. The skylights give a decent amount of natural light in each court, and the darker corridors have a nice warm glow about them. I guess my only real problem with the mall is that it's very plain. The exterior is good, especially the food court entrance, but it looks like they took a very safe design approach for the interior. It's not bad, it's just not going to be very memorable. But that's just my opinion though. The locals seem to like it, given that there's still a decent amount of foot traffic inside. For the most part. I mean, this shot isn't a very good example, I'll admit. If you have ever considered living in Appleton, Wisconsin, well, if you're still dragging your feet on that, what are you waiting for? Because Area Vibes lists this place very highly with an overall livability score of 81. Compare that to the Wisconsin average of 71 and then the national average of 67. To break that 81 down, amenities gets an A+ with cost of living and crime getting a B. Employment opportunities are there with a C grade, and while housing gets a C-. Schools could use some work though, as they get a D grade. Have a look on Area Vibes yourself if you want to look at the specifics of how these grades are evaluated, but the short of it is, Appleton is a very good place to move if you snag a job out there. In fact, Wisconsin in general looks like a pretty good place to move, it seems. I liked it. Okay, the food court looks pretty good in terms of design. I'll give them that. I suppose while on the way out, there's no real ownership change to speak of with this mall. Fox River Mall was developed by General Growth Properties and was owned by them all the way up to their merger with Brookfield Properties, and Brookfield still hangs on to this mall for now. That doesn't happen often, as there's usually a major ownership change, if not several. But thanks for having me, Appleton, Wisconsin, and until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you, and the Fox River Mall and Northland Mall, farewell and good luck in this mad, mad, mad world. I can understand why Fox River Mall is considered the largest mall in Wisconsin. That took forever to walk.